Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. In Lewis Carroll's Alice Through the Looking Glass, you have the character of Humpty Dumpty. And when asked about the meaning of words, Humpty Dumpty replies that words mean exactly what I want them to mean. And for those who study the philosophy of language, this is known as linguistic recursion. And it means basically you define your own terms. It doesn't matter how you perceive the word, it's how the user of the word, the speaker, uses the word within context. And why am I telling you this? Well, it's not because I feel in a particularly educative mood. I'm not trying to elucidate, and show, the meaning of things or anything like that. It's just as an example that we're going to use for what the Labour Party are doing. For you see, we know, for example, that they cannot define what a woman is. That has been a long-standing joke. Keir Starmer struggling there, can define a woman. I don't know, I can't, because I'm very stupid. Well, it's worse than that, because they keep on banging on, of course, about working people. Working people this, working people that. We're not going to harm the working people, blah, 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 blah. But they cannot define, like woman, what a working person is. Labour has actually had to come out and admit that they have no actual definition of what working people, the term working people means. They don't know what a working person is. They keep talking about this mysterious working person. It's like the mythical man month. And if you know that reference, excellent. But it's talking in terms of project development. They say, well, this took 1,200 man months or whatever, isn't it? But the mythical man month does not exist. And it's the same as working people. If you can't define what they are, then they can't exist. They only exist by their definition. Is a millionaire who gets up at 5 a.m. every morning and does a 12-hour shift a working man? Well, yes, because work is independent from reward, surely. Anyway, they've had to finally admit this, Labour. Very embarrassing, humiliating even for them. They don't have a definition, even though they constantly say that we will protect them from tax rises. And, of course, they're not, because everything they've done has made everyone poorer, including the working person, whatever that is. And it's been over a month since the Tories asked them to define what a working person is. And still, a month later, there is no definition forthcoming. The Cabinet Office have been asked, you're asking the civil servants who are dealing with this stuff, what's their frame of reference? What's their basis for someone defined as a working person? They don't know. They've wheeled out some faceless, nameless junior minister. He replied, and this is the telling bit, that each Whitehall department, so all the different departments, can each define what a working person is individually and separately from all the other departments to fit in with the needs and requirements of that department. In other words, it means exactly what they want it to mean, like Humpty Dumpty. Now, Humpty Dumpty, of course, had a great fall. So let's hope that this government has a great fall too. It's got to fall, hasn't it? It's got to. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffin, he's come out. He said that he's still promising that Labour won't raise taxes on working people. And one of the press there asked him, have you come to the agreement of what a working person is yet? And he just looked at him and sort of slight shake of the head and said, and sort of didn't answer. Is the Chancellor a working person? And if so, what job does she do? There seems to be a mystery here. Did she even work? Seems not. Seems she lost her job because she wasn't working. She kept disappearing off to do Labour Party business. That's why she got fired. So you can hardly call her a working person since she was never at her job. And nobody can define what her job was either. It's very mysterious. Now, John Glenn, not the astronaut, an MP, He tabled a question back on October the 14th with regards to the claim by Labour that they wouldn't raise the taxes on working people. And in that, he says, well, it all depends on how do you define working. And he was the one, he says, well, look, we're MPs. We all like to think we work hard, and yet we're paid exceedingly well. Do we count as working people? He says, say, for example, and a right dig at Keir Starmer, he says, does a man who's in a very highly paid, highly prestigious job who rents out his house, is he a working person? And of course, that's exactly what Keir Starmer is. He's a very highly paid, highly prominent person who rents out his exceedingly expensive house. Does that make him a working person, or is his passive income deem him not to be a working person? And if he's not a working person, will he offer to pay even more tax just to show that we're all in this together? Fat chance of that. Of course, he has got a separate rule in his own name, so he doesn't have to worry about his pension. He can have an infinitely high pension. Everyone else can't. He can put as much as he likes in. No one else can. His pension is tax-free. No one else's is, but only because he's Keir Starmer. And he promised that once he became Prime Minister, he'd reverse that law. It's funny how he hasn't. Is he a working person? But still, here we are, months later. Still no response. Still no definition. Georgia Gould, who's the Cabinet Office Minister, said every government department is entitled to define its own parameters, and it may use either agreed terms or terms agreed by itself. In other words, it can use some generic term that we use all across government, or it can redefine for the purposes of its own function. Well, that doesn't wash. Either you are or you aren't, and you can't be a working person in one department and not a working person in another department. That is madness. But that's where you're at, because this government refuses to define what a working person is, because if it does define it, it's then got to stick to it. And that will cause it problems because, they're idiots, basically. Starmer once said that a working person is someone who goes out and earns their living. Don't we all? Don't we all do that? Even if you're sitting at home and you've got passive income, you've had to have gone and worked hard to get that passive income. Is a pensioner on a very low wage who has his fuel tax, his fuel allowance, winter fuel allowance taken away? Is he a working person? Or is he deemed to be the idle, indolent rich who needs to be taxed even more, even though they're the ones with the least? You see, the problem with definitions is it ties you up. How about take the word working away and just have person? And that way, it's very inclusive. I always thought Labour liked inclusive, but apparently not. Reeves said that the PM did count as a working person, and yet there's him with this massive passive income. Odd, isn't it, how they can change the rules for themselves? Hypocritical, two-faced twonks, one and all. Well, if anyone out there in YouTube land can define a term that encompasses what a working person is, please send it to 10 Downing Street with a note that any idiot in there who understands what's written, please use this. Please feel free to use this. Thanks very much. Take care. Goodbye.